Old Man Hemlock was the heart of his farm, and his donkey Jebediah was its soul. For 40 years the two had been inseparable, a familiar sight tilling the fields and walking the dirt roads. When the farmer passed away peacefully in his sleep, the farm fell into a deep and somber quiet. His children, who had long since moved to the city, returned to handle his affairs. They found Jebediah in the old wooden barn, standing over the spot where the farmer's favorite rocking chair used to be. The donkey was not eating, not drinking, just standing a silent, lonely vigil. His grief was a tangible thing, a heavy presence in the dusty air. The family, pragmatic and unsentimental, saw the farm not as a home, but as an asset. They decided to sell it, piece by piece, starting with the livestock. But when they tried to lead Jebediah out of the barn, the gentle, docile animal they remembered was gone. In his place was a creature of fierce, unshakable resolve. He planted his hooves, lowered his head, and let out a bray so loud and defiant it echoed across the valley. He refused to move. He would not leave the barn. More specifically, he would not leave that one spot in the barn. When they tried to force him, he became aggressive, kicking and snapping, something he had never done in his long life. However, their frustration soon turned to curiosity. Why was he so protective of this one patch of dirt floor? The farmer's son, Michael, who had faint, fond memories of his father, began to feel a prickle of unease. "This isn't like him," Michael said to his sister. "Dad always said Jeb was gentler than a lamb. He's trying to tell us something." He recalled his father spending hours in that barn, not just working, but sitting in his rocking chair, often polishing old tools or simply looking at the floorboards. The family had always thought it was just an old man's eccentricity. Now, they weren't so sure. They decided to placate the donkey and investigate. They brought Jebediah some water and a bucket of his favorite oats, placing them near the spot. The donkey drank and ate, but never moved his feet from the patch of earth he was guarding. Armed with shovels and a crowbar, Michael and his sister began to clear the area around him. The donkey watched them, his large dark eyes following their every move. They pulled away a rotten floorboard near his hooves. Underneath was not dirt, but another layer of wood. It was the lid of an old hidden trapdoor. A cold dread mixed with excitement washed over them. With a final heave, they pulled the door open. It didn't lead to a root cellar or a forgotten storage space. It led to a small hidden compartment. Inside, nestled in oilcloth and straw, was an old metal box. Their hearts pounded as they lifted it out and blew off the dust. It wasn't filled with money or gold, as they might have secretly hoped. It was filled with history. There were their grandfather's war medals, their grandmother's wedding ring, their own baby shoes, and a thick stack of letters their father had written to them over the years but had never sent. At the very bottom was the deed to the farm, free and clear, with a handwritten note on top. "This farm is not dirt and buildings," it read. "It is our roots. It is our story. Never sell the story." They looked up from the note, tears streaming down their faces, and met the calm, knowing gaze of the old donkey. Jebediah hadn't been guarding a spot. He had been guarding a legacy. He had been protecting his master's heart, long after it had stopped beating. The for sale sign never went up. The family, humbled and profoundly moved, decided to keep the farm, to honor the story their father had left for them. Jebediah lived out the rest of his days in his barn, the faithful guardian, his duty fulfilled. Sometimes, the greatest treasures are not buried in the ground, but in the memories we are told to protect, and the most loyal guardians have the longest ears.